Hey everybody, we're back on that CJ3B body build, and we're going to attach the wheel houses and side panels to the floor. So you can see I've got that laid out. I've got it in red so you can see it, and we're spacing our spot welds 1.5 inches apart, and we're going to MIG weld these in. And I've got one punched here already. And we're going to MIG weld it in because last week we did the spot welding. I showed you that. And a lot of guys wanted to see it MIG welded in because not a lot of people have a spot welder at home. And the setup I got is, you know, a terribly expensive setup, so most guys won't have that in their home shop. But if you remember that, last week that was our spot welding. We put the wheel houses to the side panel. Now when we MIG weld this in, that is a 9/32 hole. If I had two pieces of 18 gauge, I'd go with a 1/4 inch hole. And if I had two pieces of 14, I'd go with a 5/16 hole. But our floor, as you remember, is 14 gauge. And our side panel is 18 gauge. So right in the middle of 1/4 and 5/16 at 281 is 9/32. So 281 thousandths hole, and that'll work perfectly. We'll get these jigged up, and I don't know, maybe fool around with the lighting a little bit so you can see it better, and we'll get going on welding these. Okay, now as far as punching these, if we pre-planned like we did on our hat channel for the floor, we would have punched everything in the Rotex punch here. And that's just got 18 different sizes of holes. And they swivel around, and the bottom swivels around and matches up. You put your piece in there, pull the lever down. Just as simple as that. And you've got your hole. But for panels that are already in place and we need to get a hole in them, I don't like drilling sheet metal because you always get that damn triangular hole, you know, on that, if you don't use those special cutters. If you just use a twist drill, you get a triangular hole, and I don't really like that. You could use the roto broaches or the Hogan hole cutters, and they work real good, but I prefer punching when I can, so I'll take you over to the bench and show you what I used. Okay, there's my preferred punching tool. That's a Roper Whitney hand punch. That's their double X model, and it punches right through with no trouble. We've got the 9/32 set up in there, and there's a case that it comes in, and you get a bunch of punches. You can order just about any size you want for that. They've got just about every size available, but they give you an assortment when you buy it. And super handy tool if you're doing any kind of sheet metal work. We've got the gauge set up, and I'll show you how that works. We'll go and punch the other side. Okay guys, we got the wheelhouse and side panel clamped to the floor, and in this area here, from the floor to the top of the wheelhouse, you want 11 1/4 inches, and we'll worry about attaching it to the floor riser later, and we'll get that wiggle out of it. But for now, we're just going to clamp it to the floor. Okay, now we're going to get that flipped over so that we're doing our plug welds flat, and we'll be right back with you. Okay guys, I got the body flipped on its side so we can weld flat, and I've got a bunch of clamps on there, and I'll take you over and I'll show you how we do the plug welds on the bench first, and then we'll get onto the body. Okay, here's some samples I made of the spot welds, and on this one here I had the speed set normal like you'd weld in any other position, and it gives you kind of a humped up spot weld there, and that's not what we want. And this one was a little bit less. It still gives you quite a hump here, and we're not looking for that. And then I practiced on that one, still a little bit big. And finally I got a nice flat one right here. And this is with the speed turned down. It wouldn't sound right if you were regular welding, but what you want to do is put more heat into it and less wire. So this is nice and flat, and we've got the settings figured out for that, and that's how we're going to do it. And here's the setup I use on the gun. I just use a regular nozzle, but this is the nozzle they give you for doing these kind of welds. And what they want you to do is trim your wire flush with the end here, and then put that over your hole and just pull the trigger and it'll fill up on its own. And it's good if you don't have a steady hand just yet. That stabilizes the gun real nice, but I don't think you could see real good, and I don't like to use that. So we're just going to use a regular nozzle. We have 23 thousandths wire in here, and we're at 140 amps on the welding machine. So we'll get welding that next. Okay, we're getting ready to put our plug welds in here, and you always want to start out by clipping the wire so it's nice and clean, and then we'll go ahead and make a weld. And you'll hear that the speed is a little bit slower than normal, and we're putting heat in there and not so much wire. So we'll get the first one done now. Okay, now we're getting a few tacks in here, and that's what your weld should look like. It should be nice and flat, and it should fill up the entire hole, and there's good penetration into that 14 gauge, and we didn't blow out any of the 18 gauge around there. So we'll just go down this entire line and get those put in there, and then we'll start to worry about getting the flex and all the movement out of this when we put the tailgate surround in and we attach it to the floor riser. And but we'll get that attached first, and I'll get the other side attached, and then I'll flip everything over and put it back on the bench and show you what that looks like assembled, and then we'll start to square everything up. Okay, there's our row of plug welds finished up. And don't worry if you get some that are higher than others. That weldable primer is kind of tricky, and it spatters a bunch and makes a mess of some of them. But use some nozzle gel or some anti-spatter, and it'll help you along with your nozzle. So we're going to flip this again, get it back on the bench, and start working on the tailgate surround. Okay, we've got everything plug welded in, and now we're going to start working on straightening these out. You can see the way the square looks. This has to go out, but there's still plenty of play in there. So we'll get that nice and square by pushing that out, and we'll get our rear floor sill in there, and then the tailgate surround will hold that nice and square. And on this side, this one has to come way in, which it can still do because we're only the weld of the floor. And we'll get that pulled into shape. The floor sill has to go in next. Grab that. Okay, that's going to fill in between there, like that. And then our tailgate surround with our tailgate latches and stuff will go in the corners. And we'll get that squared up and finish welded in a couple places. And that'll basically be the whole back section of the 3B. So that's what we're going to work on next time. And thanks for watching the videos, and hit the like button or subscribe if you like what you see, and send me a comment if there's anything else you want to see, and we'll keep working on this. And as parts come in, we're going to keep working on that CJ3A, and we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks.